A rematch of the NBA Finals already. The Thunder come to Indy, and the Pacers will have revenge on the mind. How are these teams different? What are the emotions going to be like? How's this going to go on the court? It's a Locked On Pacers, Locked On Thunder crossover podcast.
You are Locked On NBA Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday, and welcome to Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder. If you're on Locked On Thunder, Rylan is here. You're hearing my voice first because we're crossing it over today, previewing the NBA Finals rematch. It's Pacers Thunder in Indy on Thursday, national TV, the spotlight for both teams. It's going to be a blast, and it's going to be a different kind of game. I'm actually appreciative, Rylan, here in Indy, that you've done this for years. You know, sometimes ahead of these big games, players always want to say, it's just another game. We're going to focus on ourselves. None of that, really. The Pacers have acknowledged that it is something for them. They're excited to see the Thunder again and show what this non-Tyrese Haliburton group can do. But I've been talking too much. I'm Tony East of Locked On Pacers. And with me for the 7th time since June, we did 6 times post-game, Rylan Stiles from Locked On Thunder. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back crossing it over with you, Tony. It was so much fun in the finals to do our crossovers. Why not do it for this finals rematch?
Do you think we've set a record for most crossovers in a year on Locked On for 2 people?
I would say assuredly that we did set a record.
7 is once every 50 days.
Yeah, it was.
We're on fire. Yes, the finals was dramatic. Starting 5, you heard both of us, by the way, showed how emotional it really was. And that's actually where I want to start this one for, is you already covered ring night for the Thunder, a very dramatic game in itself, but I don't even care necessarily about the game part. It was fantastic. But what did you see emotionally in that game that you feel like will remain in a finals rematch, and what will be different from the Pacers' perspective, because they're now hosting, but they're the runner-ups? It's not the same sort of emotional and feeling for them.
Yeah, I think that it's so special that both these teams have made the finals. These small market teams going to the finals, very seldom final appearances, of course, for both franchises. The Thunder got the win last June, but they're always going to be linked together now. What used to just be a cross-conference game that happened twice a year, every time the Thunder play the Pacers for the rest of time, you'll think about the 2025 NBA Finals and what that meant for both franchises. So, ring night for the Thunder was a special occasion. It was a party, and it was really the last time that the organization can wrap their arms around winning a championship before having to turn the page into the next season. And the last time that they'll really all be on board with celebrating this championship for another 20 years, because you look at it, you typically do like a 10-year reunion. This team won it at such a young stage in their career. They're going to be playing in 10 years. Like, they're not going to have a 10-year reunion. So it's like the next time you have an all-out party will be in 20 years at the reunion for this team. So it was just fun to have them get that one last night of celebration. And then now, with the emotions that they showed, dancing with their rings, that they went up and touched the banner as it was being hoisted to the rafters. And Chet made a note at post game of just, we're going to be the only people who have touched that banner, except for whoever moves it to the new arena in a couple of years. So it's just a special part of their identity, especially for the guys who have been here for a long time and have seen this rebuild go through. And there's a lot of guys on this team that their stories to get to this point and be NBA champions are really unexpected. Like Lou Dort being an undrafted guy on a 2-way contract and then becoming a pivotal role in a championship roster. So there's a lot of emotion, a lot of good emotion from this team. They did a great job of zeroing back in for a high intense game, but they're also going to have that in Indiana. Like the last time that they were there playing games in that matter of consequence, not in the preseason, was the NBA Finals. And you just, what emotions goes into that.
Hey, Summer League happened too, Rylan.
Yeah, Summer League did happen. The NBA's been really trying to shoehorn in these finals matchups. We got it Summer League, we got it preseason, we got it week number 1, game number 1 for Indiana. So I think that there is going to be some extra juice for a game like this.
Yeah, the big difference will be something you said that I think was well phrased, was like wrapping your arms around last season one last time. And like the Thunder, of course, will, because they won the title. For a lot of these Pacers players, like they started 9-14, and everybody counted them out. And even in the playoffs, I'll hand up. Like, I picked the Cavs in the second round. Like, nobody picked this team to make the finals, nonetheless get as far as they did. And then they were half of a game away from winning it. On one hand, and I think now that they've had time, they can somewhat fondly look back on it. Maybe not right away. It might take them a couple more years of their life to get to that point. So I do think there will be some of that. They're not going to raise the banner. They did not win. This is how it's been described by the players. It's already up, and they're just going to be like, there it is. That was fun. Like, it's a big accomplishment to win the East. They've done it twice ever. It was the first time they've done it in 25 years. Like, 25 years ago, you and I, our combined age was like 12 or something, right? So, like, it's a long time for that to happen. You want to celebrate that, but it's different when you didn't actually reach the summit and you're playing the team that did, right? So that kind of shock will be to their like emotional system will be really fascinating to me on how it feels in the moment, and then how it feels when you go to the center circle and you're like, oh, that guy, I just played that guy 7 times in meaningful games, because that's hard. Like, that's actually something that struck me about the Pacers last year is, they beat the Knicks in game 6, and it was the second time they'd ever won the East. And it was this huge thing that they had done it, and they're feeling really great, and they're celebrating. And you know this now because you were at the Thunder version, obviously, but it didn't used to be a trophy for winning your conference. It's only been an actual named trophy for the last couple of years. And the NBA, and it's a big deal, like, makes it a celebration. There's a TV thing going on in the court. So it feels like this huge celebration, but like, it's not the final round. And so I was actually impressed by the Pacers in the locker room. Like, they weren't celebrating still. There was champagne around, and they were like putting it to the side. They're like, no, we'll wait. And if we win the whole thing, we'll use this, right? That kind of polar emotions was shocking to me, but that's how they should have been. And now I wonder how they'll handle it in this setting, because it's just like, it's as big as it gets. It's the team you want to beat the most of anybody. Now, like you said, they're forever linked in a way that is very rare of two teams that are 12 hours apart and have no other reason to have any vitriol towards each other.
Yeah, and I trust the Pacers fan base, honestly. Like, opening night for the Pacers is always going to be a spectacle with, how much that they care about basketball. It's basketball in 49 states, and this is Indiana. Like, all that stuff that goes into it. So, like, the crowd is going to make this feel different as well. Like, that's what helped the Thunder last night, was like, that was, a celebration to start the game. It was a playoff level atmosphere during the game, and it was rewarded with a comeback. It was rewarded with a playoff level product on the court. I think that that's going to raise the level of intensity as well, just feeding off of that crowd for both sides. And then, to your point, this Pacers team already takes on the identity of underdogs, and you cannot get more of an underdog story than starting your season against the team that beat you in the championship without Haliburton. Miles Turner left you. You want to prove that, like, you still are a really good team, and you have a lot of quality players on this roster who can still make some noise, especially in this bad Eastern Conference. Like, you want to start out with a statement, and they have the opportunity to start out with a statement on Thursday.
Hey, you gave Loud City credit, and maybe you gave them too much credit. If they were quieter, the refs could have heard Durant screaming timeout. The game would have ended 5 minutes earlier than it did.
I really don't understand the ref's explanation for this. First of all, their explanation was, we weren't looking. We didn't see him call a timeout.
Yeah, why were you not looking at the guy with the ball?
With the ball as the clock's counting down. And it also brings up the question of, okay, had Houston had a timeout in their back pocket, and had they been trying to rightfully call a timeout that they had to advance the ball, you also wouldn't have rewarded that either, and would just let the time expire if you weren't looking. Like, what was going on there? That was insane to me. It's like, who else were you looking at, every ref on the floor, than the guy with the ball as clock is expiring?
I'm surprised that I'm not surprised. Like, I guess it makes sense that the ref has to blow the whistle to actually have a timeout be a thing. Like, you want the whistle to stop the game. But I'm just surprised, especially in a moment like that, that's what actually triggers the timeout, is not Kevin Durant. And I believe a player right by him. I can't remember who it was now.
Well, yeah, Alpi was telling him, don't do that. You can't do that. We don't have a timeout. But so no, Alpi was like flailing his arms.
It was Tari Eason, right next to him, also yelling timeout. Like, I'm surprised that does not count as a trigger, even though I understand that whistling, whatever. This is not a
That's what's so crazy though about missing it, is that, like, you had Alpi flailing his arms saying, no, you can't do that. You had Tari calling a timeout. You had KD calling a timeout. And while all this is going on, nobody's looking? Like, what were you looking at?
Yeah, it was something. That's a good transition to talking about the actual basketball game we're going to see. Will it be tight? Will it be loose? What's the basketball going to look like? What's different about these teams that just played each other 7 times in as tight of a series as you can get. But Rylan, before we talk about those things, we need to tell everybody about two wonderful groups of people. First up is Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no at Mint Mobile. Their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. I said yes to making the switch. And if you do, you could get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it very simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk-to-text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep the same number. You can get the same quality of service you had before. That's what makes Mint Mobile different. But for a fraction of the price, the setup is super easy. You keep your number. You're running in minutes. Are you ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Upfront payment of $45 is required, the equivalent of $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigs on a limited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for more. We also have to tell you guys about Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses does not solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everybody sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. They offer fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Makes it easy to get started. You just connect to the board-certified doctor 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, it's simple, it's private, and all handled by a real doctor. It's about confidence and connection and getting back to the moments that matter. If that's for you, visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNBA to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNBA. And do not forget our code LockedOnNBA so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Back here, crossing it over on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder. Thanks for making either of us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen can be any of the many games that happened Wednesday night. We're recording before they start, but Dante DiVincenzo is starting instead of Mike Conley. That's interesting for the Wolves, who I'm quite high on this season. Listen to Locked On Wolves to hear more about what's going on in Minnesota, the Thunder's opponent in the conference finals last season. Let us continue, Rylan, with basketball. The Thunder won the game. They did not have J-Dub. It was tough for them to beat the Rockets. They're going to be playing the Pacers, who do not have Tyrese Haliburton. We'll talk about those differences among many later. But how did you feel like the emotions of the night affected the Thunder, if at all, basketball-wise? And how do you expect this game to thus be, both as a kind of celebration night, but not really for the Pacers, but generally as like a grr, we hate you for tonight kind of basketball game?
Yeah, I didn't think that the basketball was impacted by how emotional the ceremony was. And it was really an efficiently done celebration by the Thunder organization. And then they had another 5 minutes to warm up and to kind of regroup afterward. And then they started the basketball game. But the reason I don't think that the emotion played a part in it, even though Houston got out to a good start, it was just the decision-making was sound for the Thunder. They just so happened to be losing for a lot of this game, and Houston kept them at an arm's length at a lot of this game. But it wasn't anything to do with like poor play or turnovers that were prompted by mental errors. It was turnovers prompted by Houston's swarming defense. It was rebounded collected by Houston's incredible length and size, but it was nothing to do with like mental mistakes. And so I think that was a telltale sign that the emotions didn't impact things. I would expect tonight's game to be the same way, where it's like these are two really well-coached teams. These are two players who have done a great job to this point of, compartmentalizing things, like winning their conference, like the emotions of losing at the buzzer if you're the Thunder, or winning at the buzzer if you're Indiana in game one, and coming back the next night, coming back throughout the rest of the series. Both teams had found themselves in spots where you thought it could get dicey, like whenever the Thunder kind of won game two convincingly down the stretch of that game. Indiana didn't blink. They went ahead and won game three, almost won game four. So I trust these two teams to not let the emotions impact them in a negative way. I think that the emotions can be a positive, like we mentioned, with the crowd making it feel like the big game that it is. And thus you try a bit harder than you would in December against some other team. But because it's this game and in this environment, it can lead to better basketball. But I don't think that it'll be a talking point after the game's over. I think that both teams will do a great job of acknowledging the moment, appreciating the moment, but then still executing.
I think this season specifically, both Pacers Thunder games will feel as you described, and that might fade away. But like, to me, it will feel like how in Indyland, I can explain this, like how every Pacers Bucks, maybe a little more intense than this, how every Pacers Bucks game has felt for the last couple of years, or Pacers Knicks, where like it's not going to feel regular to these players. Like they're going to be going, regular season is what it is. Like you're changing your scouting report every day or two. You're changing a lot of different stuff, but they're going to be really, really gunning for this win. Both teams, really. I mean, the Thunder maybe a little less so because they already proved they can win the series, but it means something to the Pacers to be like, man, we could have had it. And I think the Thunder will be the favorites in whatever sports books. It's probably already listed in a bunch of places. But like we saw Game 6 last year, very limited Tyrese Haliburton, and the Pacers, quite frankly, dominated that game. We saw Game 7 where Haliburton got hurt, and he contributed to the first half of that game, but the Pacers were winning at halftime of that basketball game. And that was with Jalen Williams playing, which, again, we'll get to. So I do not think that this is any sort of easy – the Thunder are the best team in the league, but like this is not some easy win for them, especially with the heightened intensity and scrutiny and level of detail that's going to come in to a game like this, of which the Pacers have, outside of their terrible early stretch last season, won many of the last few years against Milwaukee. Now, granted, they eliminated the Knicks in the second round last year. They went to MSG the second game of the season last year and got rocked by the Knicks. The Knicks won by like 35. You never know what these games are actually going to turn out like, but I'm expecting personally a very competitive game, and especially for the players who played a lot in the finals, the Pacers starters, a couple of their bench guys, to be like supremely fired up about the chance to win.
Yeah, this is going to be a game that it's going to feel different for the consumer and for the players.
Yes.
Of just, it's going to give them some extra motivation to have a great game to try to win the contest. But I don't think that either side will be pressing or doing too much. It'll just end up being great basketball. I'd be shocked if the want to win overpowers them to the degree that they start making mistakes. I would expect that the want to win allows them to be tighter in this game in a positive way, tighter defensively with your rotations, crisper with your decision-making offensively, and it just leads to great basketball out of the chute. What a couple games to start for OKC, and what a way to start for the Pacers in your first game.
Totally agree. And I do wonder also now, something I've been teasing at, the differences between the teams and how that will make this feel different than the finals. Let's just do the boring one first. Rylan, J-Dub probably not playing. How does that change the Thunder? Because when Shai was struggling in the first half, maybe not even struggling, he just didn't shoot that much. What did he shoot 7 times in the first half? 6 against Houston? Like their offense didn't look bad. They were also missing a lot of threes, which really clouds the results of the total numbers, but it certainly did not look like it did at their apex last year. Like that's going to make the Thunder look different. Obviously, I can touch on the Haliburton, McConnell, Turner parts of this, but what's going to look different about the Thunder than the team the Pacers just played over a half dozen times?
Yeah, I mean, the differences of Oklahoma City would just be that if you can contain Shai, which Houston did a great job of this, it helps that they have an elite point of attack defender in Thompson, and then they have the length and size to gap exceptionally well. It's like dig so far into the gaps where Shai's always surrounded by bodies, and they didn't let him get to his spots as comfortably. And whenever he did get to his spots, it was contested jumpers, which he can hit. Some of them early on in this contest didn't fall for him, and it made his game labor its way to 35 points, which typically he waltzes his way to 35 points, and it took double overtime to get there for Shai. So like Houston did a great job defending him and making him play in traffic, and that's traffic that you can't always afford to give to Shai, even though he warrants it, even though he's a great scorer. But the difference of just saying, hey, let's throw everybody at Shai, and if Lou Dort or whomever catches fire from 3, we'll live with it, and the Thunder didn't catch fire from 3, like that's what let this offense look so messy. The thing about the Thunder is they're so streaky. Like this is a guy like take Lou Dort, for example. He shoots 40% from 3. But his 40% from 3 is not a consistent 40% from 3 night over night. It gets there because of the volume of which he shoots threes. Because as you saw in the finals and you saw in the playoff run, like he can do what he did last night, 0 for 9 from 3. He could turn around Thursday and be 8 for 10 from 3. And everything's going right for him. And that's how this whole offense is when it comes to the complementary shooters. This is a team that shot 13th out of 16 teams in the playoffs in 3-point percentage. And they don't have J-Dub in this game in all likelihood to take some pressure off of Shai as the scorer, which also leads to the secondary unit. Like the Pacers have to prioritize winning whenever Shai's off the floor, because I don't think that they're going to be able to have the same success of defending Shai that Houston did, which is no slight to Indiana, but Houston has one of the best defenses in the league, and they're going to have, I think, a top 2 defense in this league with the Thunder. So, if you factor in Shai will be a bit better, you have to capitalize whenever he's off the floor, because this offense, we're running through AJ Mitchell as the primary setup man.
I love him.
I love AJ Mitchell. He's incredible. It's just like he's so awesome as a player. But it's going to be running through AJ Mitchell and running through, Chet Holmgren staggered in there as an offensive weapon to try to replicate J-Dub's scoring production. Like, that's going to make a more challenging situation than being able to rely on J-Dub next to Shai and then rely on J-Dub to take over the start of the second quarter, start of the fourth quarter, whenever Shai sits in his normal rotation. So, like, those are areas where you can find the ability to strike against this Thunder team without it being a complete hole. On top of not having J-Dub, you don't have Isaiah Joe in there to knock down some threes. You don't have Nikola Topic, who is a part of what's going to try to solve the half-court offense with his playmaking ability. You won't see him until mid-November. You lose another body in Kenrich Williams, who will not be back until mid-November as a kind of a spark plug guy defensively. And then when the Pacers are on offense, like, the Thunder can't play as big as they can once they're healthy. Like, whenever they're healthy, they can put out a lineup of J-Dub at the 3 next to Hartenstein and Holmgren, and that makes life really difficult to score inside the arc. Obviously, they still have a lot of competitive defenders like Caruso and Kaysen are no slouches, but they can't do exactly what J-Dub can defending up and down the board. So, like, there's gonna be, of course, differences in how you can attack this Thunder team tonight if J-Dub does not play, which it doesn't look like he will. So I'm excited to see what Indiana can conjure up and how they can go about that. But the big thing is the scoring next to Shai. Like, if Chet doesn't have a hot night offensively, which he did on opening night, he was fantastic opening night. But you think about how hard opening night was to win for Oklahoma City, and it took all 28 points from Chet. It took the ability to score at all 3 levels from Chet and get to the free throw line from Chet. If at all that takes a step backward in the game 2, then you're really going to be tight for buckets for OKC.
Yeah, Chet hot in the first quarter was huge. Like, even with Houston felt like playing better for a lot of the next couple quarters, their biggest lead was like 7 or 8 because Chet kept it so close early. AJ
it reminded
Mitchell,
me a lot of game 4. Like, it was game 4 against the Pacers where Shai's going to get all the credit and deserves the credit for what he did in the fourth quarter of game 4, for what he did down the stretch of last night's game. And he deserves credit for that. But he's not in the position to have that moment and to have those quarters and to have that overtime if Chet, in this case, or J-Dub in game 4, doesn't keep them within striking distance. Like, you think about if Indiana could have just stopped J-Dub a few more times, quarters 1 through 3, it's too little too late once Shai got going in that fourth quarter. And it's like, that's the secret recipe for the Thunder, is they have this amazing scorer who is inevitably going to get going at some point in the game. And on the rare nights where he doesn't start hot and he doesn't play a full 48 minutes of incredible basketball, scoring the ball wise, they can still hang around in these games long enough to get him going. And so that's what happened last night. That's what happened in game 4. And it changed the series. It won them a championship, a few months ago. And then it changed the game and starts them 1-0 this season.
Yeah. AJ Mitchell, by the way, who we both love, I will now have him ingrained as a guy who on NBC's first broadcast back in over a decade, Mike Tirico had to say, AJ Mitchell having himself a night. Yes, Mike Tirico
having himself a night. The 4-point
in
play
the third quarter, he was keeping him steady. That before halftime shot was like maybe the biggest shot of the game. Well, that's not true. There were a lot of big shots. Okay, I will tell you about the differences about the Pacers, and specifically one thing that I'm like a titch worried about, specifically as it relates to the Thunder. As we close out this crossover, Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder. But first, Rylan, I have to tell everybody about Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was certainly intrigued. I now have 4 pairs, and I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family. I had to give it a try. So let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear, whether it's fit or comfort or finding the right style. Skims changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs. It's all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. Whichever type you try, their stretch 5-inch boxer briefs, their cotton 3-inch briefs. I've become more of their stretch briefs guy, but I've tried many of them. If you work out a lot, these are perfect for you. They're the perfect workout underwear. It feels like the missing link. They give you all the movement you need, but keeping everything right in place. They never lose their shape. If it's in your head or not, whatever, they will help your gains improve. You've got to try them all. It's comfortable. It's lightweight material. It feels amazing. Feels like you're wearing nothing at all. So shop Skims Men's at skims.com. Let them know we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select Locked On Pacers or Locked On Thunder in the drop-down menu that follows. We're back here on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder. Thanks for checking us out for your first listen today and every single day. Make Locked On Knicks your next listen. They're a team that's been commonly predicted to reach the finals with the Thunder this year. The Pacers beat them in the conference finals, and they are going through some shenanigans, I say, with Karl Towns. We'll see what those shenanigans lead up to in a couple hours when games actually start. He went from playing to doubtful to questionable to what is going on in a very quick amount of time. Very weird, Rylan. Okay, the Pacers' differences. J-Dub's not playing. Well, guess what? Tyrese Haliburton's not playing. That is already known. That is not a surprise to any Thunder fan who saw the game in which that injury took place. Andrew Nembhard is a very capable point guard. He had many good moments in the finals. His relationship with Shai has been well documented. They've been teammates on Canada before. He's a good player. Ben Mathurin, another Canadian who's tied with those guys, will also start. He also played well in the finals. Was probably the best player in game 3, period, for either team. Was like the only Pacer still going for it and trying in the fourth quarter when things got sad. I'm not saying they weren't trying, but like it was clear who was going to win, and Ben Mathurin was still pushing like crazy on the Pacers side. Those two are good players. They are starting level players. How exactly the Pacers look with them in the starting five instead of Haliburton is to be determined, and Miles Turner's gone. The other guy that the Thunder saw in the finals. Miles and Chet took turns having stinkers of games where they missed every shot. In Miles' case, it was basically every game. He's still a good player, and they're going to be missing him, and their replacements for him are not as talented as him. They're going to be figuring out their center position all season. So the Pacers weren't able to like fully keep up starters on starters with the Thunder, but they were pretty dang close for a lot of the finals, and that's going to be really tricky in this game. That's why something you mentioned will be the key tonight, or one of the keys tonight, is trying to find the right bench combos to win the non-Shai minutes, because in the finals, the legend that everybody says always beats their team, TJ McConnell, was sensational in like many games. And he's their best guy getting to the paint on that second unit. He sets up the shots for the guys. Well, guess what? He is also hurt. The Pacers are going to look a lot different if you're a fan of the Thunder. So their backup point guard is going to be Jarris Walker, Ray J. Dennis. I don't know. Like they have so many injured guys at the position, and they cut campaign and DeLon Wright in camp. It's hard to say. No one really knows. I mean, the Pacers know. My guess is going to be it's going to be a two-way contract player named Talon Peter, who the Thunder actually know because he lit them up in preseason. But we'll see what that looks like in a real game. But perhaps it's Jarris, who didn't play in the finals. So two new guys for the Thunder to deal with, or Ray J. Dennis, who's on a two-way, also couldn't play in the finals. Can they win those minutes with those guys? That is one thing about the new shape of the Pacers that we'll be telling in this game. The other thing is, Rylan, the thing that made like the push and pull of Pacers Thunder at least fascinating to me is like there's a lot of strengths the Thunder have, but the one that, and I think you'd probably say this too, is like their most shocking compared to other teams is how good they are at forcing turnovers and turning that into points, right? Their steals are crazy. Well, Tyrese Haliburton is the god of I have the ball all the time and I never turn it over. Well, guess what? Tyrese Haliburton is not playing in the game, and the Thunder are still very good at forcing steals. And the Pacers' turnover rate in the preseason was the third worst, only better than the Brooklyn Nets and the Zhangjiao Long Lions, who did in fact play a preseason game that counts on NBA stats. So if the Pacers are turning it over a lot, like the Thunder routinely do to teams, forget everything I just said about winning the Shai-less minutes or keeping up starters versus starters. They just lose right there, right? They have to take care of the ball and have their best players playing their best to have a chance. And that's their biggest shift in terms of actual strategy and effectiveness from their player absences that I think will stand out in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly will. And that was the interesting part about last night's game against the Houston Rockets on Tuesday, I should say. Like, the Rockets and Thunder both played true to their identity. The Rockets crushed the Thunder on the glass, and that's what you expected coming in. And the Thunder were plus 10 in the turnover margin, and the Thunder turned it over themselves a bit more than they typically do. So if that holds and these two teams play to their identity, it's going to be an uphill battle for Indiana in this game. But it is one of 82, and it is a long season. And of course, you're going to lose games and win games all throughout it. So it's still possible, but there are just these defining keys that will decide if they can get it done, especially in a game like this where neither team is expected to like sleepwalk or expected to be taxed in many ways. I mean, this is the first game for Indiana. The Thunder did have an off day Wednesday to try to regroup from that double overtime thriller. And the Thunder, like if they can get some positive regression to the mean shooting the basketball, like that will help as well.
They did not shoot well that first game.
They did not.
Yeah, this is going to be the good Dort game, right? It was ugly.
Yeah.
It was ugly. And they were like, I mean, maybe I'm like remembering the finals wrong, but it was shots, and I was like, oh yeah, Dort made that. Casey Wallace made that. Chet actually did make his in that game, but like, yep, Chet made those. I think the moment I knew that maybe the Thunder were a little off with their jumpers was when Hartenstein missed his go-to floater twice in a row on the same possession. That never happens. I swear that shot goes in like 80% of the time. And obviously they didn't have all their shooters, but well, they're going to presumably shoot better than that. You never know with the 1-game sample. So honestly, I think if the Pacers starters, and they did have a good preseason, that was about the biggest positive from the Pacers preseason, is their core 5 guys, their 4 projected starters from last year, and Obi Toppin, were all very good, and especially very good together. If that remains in this game, they have a chance. I think their ability to keep up in the possession battle will decide if they have an actual real chance to win, or it's just like they keep it pesky close kind of game because the Thunder are really good and the Pacers are missing 3 of their top 8 guys from last year. What say you? Or here's the other thing I'll say. Do predictions even matter in these kind of big emotional games, or just like there's something else happening? You and I both said this before Game 7. Like, it's just such a different environment than a typical game that like you can say all these basketball things and just like, who cares? It's going to be different anyway.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a game in which you can use my favorite expression. You can throw out the record books when these two teams get together in this emotional game. It doesn't matter who's going to be able to handle the natural emotion and the natural ebbs and flows of this game. And it can work. It can work both ways. Where it's like the Thunder just shot 24% from 3. If they start out 1 for 12 tonight from 3, what does that do for them offensively? Can they shoot their way out of it, or does that now start to factor into their mind? They know that they've shot the ball poorly now for a game and a quarter, and they start to do too much, and now they start missing even worse. Like, how they handle that, how they handle success as well after winning their first game, like that'll all factor into this. It's going to be a very fun game. Very fun, very not as emotional as the Thunder's was, but there will be 3 to 5 minutes before the game where someone says, "Look up there, there's that," and as you know, it's the Pacers' first home game, so every player gets introduced instead of just the starting 5, which means the listed tip-off time is going to be wrong by like nearly a quarter of an hour. Everybody be prepared for that. And then a game will be played. I'm looking forward to it. I don't have to talk about the preseason anymore. I'm very jealous that you have real games and real stuff to talk about. Rylan, for Locked On Pacers listeners, where can they find you? And of course, beyond just Locked On Thunder, what you should be listening to. Yeah, Locked On Thunder every single day, thunderonssi.com to cover the team with written work. And you can also find us on OKC Dream Team on Patreon. So a lot going on. I'm happy to be here, though. Love talking hoops with old Tony East in the field. The Fields. That joke will never go away. No, you're just always going to be. You're still on my phone. It's Tony Fields. Okay, I guess I'll tell the story. One day, when I actually had a non-just sports job, I was outside doing work at a construction site for my old job. There was construction going on that I was not a part of. And I tried to come into a work call and ask a question, and my internet was terrible. So they couldn't hear me, but they could just see me literally in a field with nobody with me, just a bunch of tall grass and a creek. And I have since become Tony from the Fields. Serena Winters still also calls me that when I see her at Pacers Cavs games many times a year. For Locked On Thunder people, you've heard my voice a million times this year also, but Locked On Pacers and writing about the Pacers for Forbes. Rylan and I will be back after this game, of course, talking about what happened, how it goes, and the season will continue for both these teams. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you very soon.